morning.
I have the flu.
Shut
So
up. No, you don't.
I do. I do. So I sound like this today.
I'm so sorry. Is your girlfriend okay?
Yeah, I haven't seen her since last weekend, so
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So no
But
Super Bowl for you.
no Super Bowl, and we had a date tonight and I feel so bad.
You know what though?
We were she recreated our very first date ever.
No. Okay, do it on Valentine's Day.
I feel awful. I feel so sad.
Oh,
It's really sad.
that's so sad.
I know. I know.
Haley, also that's cute. What's the occasion? Why'd she recreate your first date?
Um, I think she just wanted to. There's our very first date was a USC basketball game and dinner, and there's a Big Ten game tonight. And so she bought tickets and was gonna take me to dinner. And now I have the flu.
She just wanted to. I love lesbians. Oh man. Okay,
Yeah,
well, there will be the season's early, right? So there'll be another time, right?
yeah. I am sad to miss the Super Bowl, but it's okay.
We don't like football anyway.
Yeah, the real head scratcher is that I have an audition I have to film today, and I'm supposed to be like all cute in a dress and like girl next door, but I sound like this, so I'm not sure I can pull that off.
This will test your acting abilities for sure. You have a fever?
Yes,
Okay.
I do. Since about like 11:30 last night.
Oh fuck. Did you take any meds?
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Um,
I honestly don't feel like that bad. Even like I sound bad. I don't feel as bad as I sound.
so if it gets bad today, call your doctor and ask for Tamiflu. I
Okay.
think that's what it's called. Why am I second guessing? I don't know. Anyway, I'm good. I'm teetering on the edge of a mountain of dread and also pretending that it doesn't exist. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, the political climate is really fucked. I think I told you, I'm like, for our audience, we're talking specifically about the trans executive order that was signed on International Women in Sports Day, International Girls in Sports Day, banning trans athletes from competing in the sport of their gender identity, which is really frustrating. And I, I watched some of the hearings and whatnot, or whatever you call them, the Senate shit. And it's like there's literally like 10 NCAA athletes that this affects. Like, can we focus on bigger issues? Like, this is such a non-issue. And it's like I saw this really cute little, like not cartoon, but like political cartoon that's like, can we just let kids be kids without having to worry about their right to exist?
Yeah.
And I do hope that like kids are obviously being shielded from this, but they hear things and I don't know. It's just, and then, also the administration taking out the T on the LGBT site and just like we're literally watching fascism and authoritarianism happen right in front of our eyes. And I've never felt more helpless. Now we are in California and I'm hoping that like our state comes through for us. But even like CHLA, like has stopped gender affirming care for like new patients under 19. So yeah, I'm just hoping that California, I already know that the ACLU is like on it and handling stuff like even at the Supreme Court level. But like I have no faith in our judicial branch at all. I don't have any faith in the executive branch. Our legislative branch has proven ineffective and fucking stupid. with like 8 traitorous Democrats voting to confirm all of these appointments. And the thing is, I'm not even paying that close of attention, to be honest. Like, I'm not. And I know all of this is going on. So I can't even imagine what's going on that I'm like not paying attention to, you know?
Mhm.
Other than that, I'm good. We're doing Super Bowl tomorrow. My girlfriend and I are hosting, and her niece and her girlfriend are coming over, and like my sister and my brother-in-law are coming over. Lindsay's coming.
Oh,
Oh, I'm excited. I'm sad you can't make it now because, keep your
yeah,
foot over there, please.
yeah, yeah. I was like,
Where are the quiet gays? Where are the quiet gays supposed to go?
Okay, everyone, welcome back to Lesbian Book Club. We are so excited to talk about The Color Purple, Part 2. We just felt like we didn't have enough time to cover it in one episode, so we are back. We have Miss Haley with the flu and Lauren with existential dread. So let's get into this. But what's new about Lauren having existential dread? Literally nothing. So,
yeah, we've been
nothing
living
new.
with that. It's okay.
um, so I rewatched the ending this morning just because I wanted to like talk about it, especially because I want to talk about the music and going back to like our theme of religion and like forgiveness. I wanted to talk about Shug's dad a little
Hmm.
bit because I had completely forgotten about that part. So we meet him. I think we've met him earlier in the film, but it wasn't really like clear that he was Shug Avery's dad. But we meet him again at the funeral of um whose funeral are they at? It's not Mister's because he's still alive. It's
It's Celie's dad.
Celie's dad. Thank you. Okay,
Mm.
one and the same. Pete, two peas in a pod. Um, but Celie's dad, and he is the pastor that's doing the service. And at the end, I guess they all like go up and like thank the pastor and everything. And Shug, you see her turn into like a little girl. And I was trying to think about like getting inside her head. She hasn't talked to her dad because obviously he's kind of like disowned her. Like he's a very religious man, and she's like what they would call like a loose woman, which I think is such a funny part in the very beginning of the movie with Nettie and Celie and their little girls, and Nettie uh says that someone was called a loose woman, and Celie's like, "What's a loose woman?" And Nettie's like, "Oh, it's a woman who a man can't tell what to do." And Celie is like in her like ignorance and childlikeness is like, "I want to be a loose woman." And she's like, "Don't say that." Um, so back to the funeral, you kind of see Shug turn into a little girl coming up to her dad and just wanting to reconcile. And it looks like the mom is like, not right now, right? And you just see like the sadness take over her face. And then, you know, it cuts to another part of her dad playing the piano a little bit later. And her coming in and like using her talent and like singing, which I'm sure she did when she was a little girl, like singing in the church choir and her dad playing the piano. And it was just like a really beautiful scene to me. And um the song is, I think, like the Lord's trying to tell you something. And I think, spiritual hymns I think they're beautiful, especially like on the piano or the organ. And I, I think they really make you think about bigger pictures in life. And I think that's what happened with her dad. And she comes and sits down at the piano, he stops playing, and she's like, please, like, keep playing. And I think his continuation of playing is like his forgiveness. And I just thought it was a really beautiful scene. And I don't know if we had even mentioned like kind of that facet of Shug's story, especially because she's like probably left the church like in the way that her father would have wanted her to be in it. Also is like a queer woman, which I'm sure the church in the South was like not a big fan of, and for her to still like want her father's approval and for him to finally like give it to her, I thought it was like a really beautiful kind of bookend to Shug's story.
I agree. I think that it's also really important to look at here is that she's a blues singer, and a lot of um, a lot of the, I think, tension happening in that relationship was maybe she didn't necessarily like leave the church, but she, in the eyes of her father and the congregation within the church, wasn't using her gift for God. And that was what they saw as like the sole purpose of, if you have a gift, you use it in the name of God, you use it for God. And at the time, singing the blues was not seen that way, or anything outside of gospel, right? And so she was deviating from this path that had been set for her. And here she is, like trying to create a bridge and hand an olive branch, and her father's accepting it. And I mean, that is beautiful. Like, he's seeing something in a way of like, oh, this gift is maybe viable in a way that I had not seen it before. Yeah. And something that my mom always says is she cannot understand when parents have queer kids and they don't see their one job as loving their child. Mm-hmm. And I love my mom for this. She always gets like very fired up about it, because she's like, what do you mean? Like, you're judging your kid for being queer and all of this. Like, she gets very upset because she's like, this is your child. You have one task in your life once you've had this kid, and it's to love them no matter what, no matter who they are, no matter what they've done, you love them. And I think that, like, in the church, that's also the task that's been given to you by God, right? Is like, you love your neighbor, you love your kid is your neighbor too, right? Like, and here her father is carrying out that task. Like, he's reaching a new level of understanding, and that was like a really nice moment in just all of these different levels to see.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom is exactly like your mom. It's her thing too. She's like, I don't understand how anyone could disown their children, like, or their child for being queer. And, growing up with a mom like that was so great for me, even before I knew I was gay. Like, I mean, my mom went with me to, rally for Prop 8 in our conservative little town in like, 2008 or whenever the heck it was. Right. And when like I left my marriage, I was like, Mom, I'm gay and I need to come home. And she was like, okay, like, okay, what is she gonna say, But I knew that that was going to be her response, right? Like, I knew before I even made that phone call that I didn't have anything to worry about with my mom.
Yeah.
So yeah, whenever I hear stories about kids, like, what is it? Like, more than half of the homeless youth in America is queer kids. Mm-hmm. And it makes me so sad, because for me, and what it sounds like for you, is we never really had to fear that our family was going to reject us in that type of way. And so we never even had to deal with that, the fear or the possibility of our entire lives being uprooted, and the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally, like, not like take that love away from you. And it like literally makes me like choked up right now to think about these children, whether they're under 18 or over 18, doesn't fucking matter. They're still children in the eyes of their parents and in their own eyes to their parents. Just not having that acceptance. So, and I'm assuming that's what Shug felt too, whether it was because of her queerness or, which her father probably doesn't know about, but internally, I'm sure she, was like, oh, I can't even tell him that part of me. Right. But just dealing with a parent's taking away of what should be unconditional love is devastating. So to see her father kind of come around, and we don't see her mom come around, right? Like, I think Shug was very intentional about going to her father alone because the mom is the one that was kind of shutting it down, But it was just a beautiful ending to that story for Shug to get kind of what she wanted as well.
Yeah. Maybe this is a great segue, talking about Shug Avery, to go into her and Celie's relationship a little bit, because I know that you definitely wanted to dive into that a little bit more from last relationship, or from last episode. And something that I really, really loved the imagery of was at the beginning of her introduction to the story, was like she shows up into town and the birds are swirling in the dark sky, and it's like the end of times, and it's like Shug Avery, this woman who's been sung about like she's gonna rip apart the marriages of the whole town and watch out for your men, because she's gonna crawl in there and spread her legs, and all the men are gonna leave you for her. And she's like, her reputation precedes her, and it's like she's just bringing the end of days to this town. And obviously that's not real.
No.
In any sense. But
like, those men have no agency over whether they go for her or not.
Yeah, but again, it's like but like the people of the town are giving this superpower to a woman that it's not a self-prescribed superpower necessarily, but it's like a projected magic upon her, right? Like she's some kind of witch that is coming in and she's going to destroy everything, and like part of it is her sexuality, part of it might be her queerness. And like something about that song too that I really liked was there's a certain tone about it, right? But then as soon as Celie starts singing about her, the tone shifts and it becomes very soft and it's full of admiration, and you can tell that she's just very enchanted by Shug. It's not a vicious song anymore about her. Everyone else has like a vicious obsession with Shug, not Celie. And then we go to her and Celie in the bathtub, and this is where I was really like, oh, because it just really melted my heart, the sense of vulnerability here, where these are two strangers, at least to Shug. Celie is a stranger, and she has this sense of wholeness about her, that she is okay to have enough vulnerability to let this woman in and let her bathe her, touch her, wash her back, to come out of the bath and let her touch her hair, which like hair is so important in Black culture. It holds meaning. It like there's so much vulnerability in that, and it pulls a song out of her. Everything about that scene I just loved. I thought it was incredibly powerful, and like what a start to a relationship between these two women, especially for Celie, who had not had anything like this since her relationship with her sister, but like this is different, you know? Yeah, go ahead. What did you
Yeah,
say?
no, that's what, when you were talking about vulnerability, the thing that came to mind was I don't think Celie has had that level of vulnerability with anybody, except for Nettie. And the bathtub scene, I think that is the overarching emotion you feel, is the vulnerability between the two women. And for Celie, it probably reminded her of that with her sister.
Mm,
And I wanted to rewind a little bit in their relationship because, like you were saying, for Shug, Celie's a stranger. But for Celie, Shug was an escape for
yes.
her. Because the first time we see some type of interaction is the first night that Celie is with Mister.
Mhm.
And she's like, you know, done the dinner, been hit, had to clean and not just clean, but like the house is in absolute disarray. There's not a clean dish in the kitchen. The whole house is disgusting. And she just wants to she said that she didn't even have time to give the kids a bath. And Mr. hits her and is like, do it anyway. So she had to give the kids a bath. And then she still had to clean the whole house. Like she probably didn't go to bed till what, 2 a.m. Like I'm just making up a time, but just incredibly late. And she finally lays down in bed for 10 seconds before Mister comes in and starts raping her. And while that's happening, she's just looking at the picture of Shug on the nightstand and escaping what's bodily happening to her into her mind. And she does that through Shug. And like who is this woman? She's very enchanting to her. So when she finally does come to town, it's like a culmination of safety for Celie because this woman has been, without even knowing her safe place. And the way that Shug interacts with Celie in their first meeting, like makes everything real. Like she stood up to what Celie thought of her in her brain. And for me, I was like, oh. And what's funny is not knowing anything about this book really until I went and saw the movie, I didn't even clock that, like, oh, maybe there's going to be a thing here at the bathtub scene. I was just like, oh, this is like beautiful, blah, blah, blah. And as it progressed, I was like, wait a damn minute. Wait a damn minute. But yeah, I loved their relationship. I loved the song that they have together,
Mhm.
where it's like the grand ballroom and the sparkle and the glitz of it because it's like completely opposite of Celie's life. And
Yeah.
for her to like imagine and dream that with Shug and have Shug enter into that um dream with her, I just think like, I don't know, I just love women. I just think they're like, it's such a beautiful relationship. The vulnerability between the two of them and the acceptance of each other and how different their lives are. And like the protectiveness of Shug over Celie, I just think is so beautiful. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah.
Also, what's your temperature?
Slightly lower.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's maybe going to, I was just ice cold. I'm literally shivering, so I was like,
Oh
but
yeah.
no, it's getting better. But the bar, the bar at the song, push the
Oh,
button.
push the button.
I
Oh
think
my
we
God.
have to talk about what happens at the end of it between Celia and Shug, because
Well, we know what this song's about, right?
oh yeah, Shug singing about like how do you turn on your man, and like she's like the picture of sensuality in this, right? Like,
Yeah, but push the button is
I
talking
mean,
about like female orgasm,
yeah, yeah.
which I'm like, I love how sexy that song is. I didn't love that I was watching it with my mom. I was like, this is awkward. I'm not gonna look to my right.
But the thing is that nobody at that bar knows. Not even Celie doesn't know. None of the men know. None of those women know.
Yeah.
Shug does, but
Mm.
nobody does. That's her secret. But then she takes Celie. She gets done singing this sexy song, and she pushes Celie against the post and gets so close she almost kisses her. And Mister is like right next to her.
His
Right in
face.
front of him. And Mister is watching with like jaw on the floor. Like, what is going on here? And neither of the women give one single fuck that Mister is watching this. Not even Celie, who very may well get beat up over this. Like, she does not care in that moment because, oh my God, Shug is giving her like this attention. And it is like nothing else compares to receiving love from Shug,
Yeah.
right?
And being the
So,
object of her desire in a room full of people that Celie thought were more deserving of her attention.
mhm. And you know those people that like they make you feel like you're something special just by being in their orbit?
Yeah.
I think that's Shug.
Oh, for sure. I
Yeah,
think when she puts her attention on you, you're the only one in the world.
exactly. Yeah. So, um, Shug just pulls her out of the room and they go off together out of the bar. And that's when we get the whole conversation about, well, of course, Celie, I'm going to come back. Nobody loves me like you do. And I think that not necessarily just in this conversation, but a little later when Shug is actually leaving, Celie says she wants to go with her. She feels a little bit betrayed that Shug says, like, not this time. I'll come back. But I think that at this point, like, Shug is not quite aware of what this relationship is.
Yeah. And she still has to deal with Mister. I think she needed to just get more ducks in a row before she could and like make more of a plan. And but for Celie, I can imagine how devastating that would be because she's like, you know what you're leaving me in.
Hmm.
You know you're leaving me here to be abused. And I
Yeah.
can understand how that would be very disheartening. But I can see Shug's point too of like, I can't just come in and like steal you away in this climate and culture that we're in, right? Let me get everything in order so that when I do it, it'll work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think it was very, very clever writing in the movie theater when Celie is floating away with the kiss between the two of them
Hmm.
because of the story from the very, very beginning that Nettie tells Celie, but it was originally their mother's story to them. And it was about the woman who was working in the fields and she was so beat down that she couldn't stand back up. But she had faith, and so she got up and she floated away over the field master. And in this case, Celie is having her own faith and floating away, and like she has been so beat down in her life, and it doesn't ever like you have to really pay attention and catch like the one quick reference. Doesn't explicitly say it, but I thought that was so clever. And there's just like a lot of small things that contribute to Celie's transformation in this story. And that was one of them. Did you notice that?
I did not. That's what I was going to say is I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Um, as you were just talking about it though, do you know what it reminds me of, please? Please, please tell me you've seen Forrest Gump.
Yes.
Okay, thank God. Little Jenny when they're like 6 or 7 and they run out into the field and she's like, God, please make me a bird so I can fly far, far away. And she's like, pray with me, Forrest. And,
Yeah.
just I think, and again, this is in like the deep South and a little bit further ahead in time than we are in The Color Purple, but that's what it reminds me of just like, let me float away, let me get away from this abuse, let me think about something else and pray. And obviously like the religious undertones are there as well, but I did not catch that. But that when you were talking about it, that's what it made me think of.
Mm, yeah.
Ugh.
Do you have anything else that you want to say about the relationship?
Okay, yes, actually I do. The last thing I want to say about the relationship is the end scene. Um, I thought the end scene was so beautiful because you see Shug sitting next to Celie at the table, and Mister's on the other side, but Shug getting that seat next to Celie. And then, but what I think is also so beautiful is I think Shug lets Celie have her feelings and her emotions and her time and her experiences. Because at the end scene, that's when Nettie comes back with her children and everything. And what I noticed regarding Shug in this scene was when they come back to the table, when Celie comes back to the table with her kids and with Nettie, Shug has moved like multiple seats down and lets Celie's children sit next to her and then lets Nettie sit close to her. And Shug's obviously still there because she's such an important person to her life, but I loved that Shug didn't play like and this sounds bad, but like didn't play the diva of like, but what about me? I want to sit next to you type thing. She was like, no, like, not that she would, but like, I just loved that she was like, let me scoot down, let me make room for, my lover's family that she hasn't seen. Let her have this moment because it has nothing to do with me, right? The selflessness of Shug in that, I thought was so beautiful. Also, I love the costuming in that scene. Shug is in like this like light blue polka dot. Actually, it could have been black and white. My TV's like really fucked up color wise in my room. So actually, I don't know what color it was, but it was such beautiful costuming. She still looked like so sexy and like gorgeous. And, I did love the selflessness. What I felt was selflessness from Shug or Celie. And like, to me, that just overflows from like love for her. And like, oh my gosh, like I want her to have all of this time with her family. And it doesn't have anything to do with me, you know?
Yeah. Oh, she is absolutely right. She's consistently selfless for Celie. She runs to Celie with the letters from Nettie when she finds them. She makes it her mission to distract Mister so that Celie can read all of the letters. She, provides a safe place for Celie to get away. She puts her own self at risk to stand up, be there to help Celie stand up to Mister and get her out. She makes this store, helps her makes this store where she is able to like build a life, even though it means being separate from her.
Yeah.
Like everything that Shug does for Celie is built from love. And that brings us to what I think is the most beautiful part of this movie, and that is that it really displays like a Black capacity for joy and love and desire, and we see so much of it in this film. And the sisterhood in this film is something that I want to talk about really quick, and like how much joy is derived from it.
Yeah.
We have in the very beginning Nettie, right? And there is joy when the sisters are together. And life can never break your soul is a lyric that comes out of the song that Nettie sings when Nettie comes to the house, and they go on their little like escapade. away from Mister's house.
Yeah.
Um, I also think like a lot of Nettie's songs are very light and innocent and very much like but they bring the levity to Celie.
Yeah.
But prior to that, I got ahead of myself. Prior to that, we have we have joy when Celie finds her baby, right? And this actually was one of my favorite musical moments in the film. And we have Celie multiple times in this film has some escapism through daydreams. And I think that's like a very common thing when you have a lot of trauma in your life is being able to escape through daydreams. And Celie is a professional at that. And she finds her baby. She goes in this daydream and she's walking and her people are singing and she's singing about finding her baby and they all seem to embody this song that she's singing, and she's like so joyful just knowing that she's mine. And like I sewed Olivia into her clothes, and that's a forehead that I've kissed, and she came out of me with her fist closed. And like these people are all working hard, like they're on the railroad, the men are, or the women are doing laundry, and they're like tied down by their work, and it's like back-breaking work. But then the choreography and the lyrics and like Celie moving through them, it's like on certain beats they all come up, and it's hard to verbally explain this without visuals for you guys, but you'll know what I'm talking about because you've seen the film. But it's like they all come up, and it's like a big giant collective breath of like freedom and like, oh, we're alive, we're here, we have joy together. And it's beautiful. And when you listen to the song without the visual of the movie, it feels much more intense and less joyful.
Yeah.
But when you pair it with the visuals, there is unmistakable joy in it. I can't get that, like, that whole scene out of my mind. Do you have anything to say about that scene?
No, yeah, I love that scene too. It's like, I think you're absolutely right talking about how if you just listen to this song, especially with the very deep men's parts of the song, you're talking about the one where they're like pickaxing and on the dry ground and everything, right?
Yeah, I think it's called Sheep 9.
Yes. And yeah, if you close your eyes and you don't look at it, it almost feels scary. But if you're watching it, like Nettie or Celie is walking down these rows of these men who look like who are shackled and have like convict like uh outfits on, right? So, but it's like, yeah, what you're describing with the physicality of the song is like joy, and she has such joy on her face, and it's like she's breaking free. She's has hope. She's the hope in the midst of like this turmoil around her. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think, and also I think the song that has, for me, that had the most hope and like joy and like sisterhood was the Pants at the end song.
Yeah.
They're all just like hyping Celia up and like, you deserve this and you have such talent and you're so strong, and you have Squeak there and you have Sophia there and you have Shug there, and they're all just like helping her get her store in order and buying her pants and just supporting her. And for me, that was like the culmination of like the sisterhood that we've been talking about in this story.
Mhm.
And I love the line that's like, who wears the pants now? You know, just like her stepping into her power, which she couldn't have done without the love and joy and like support of those other women.
Yeah, and something about this store that I think is like it makes me tear up is that she is about to go and sustain herself and be kept alive with a skill that her mom taught her lovingly.
Yeah.
Her mom, who is no longer here, and she has these like very few memories of, and it's going to sustain her for the rest of her life. It's like the seed that she kept in her pocket through a life of hardship and was able to plant with the help of her sisters and is now like blooming, and she is going to be able to eat the fruit off of forever. Like incredibly beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean as hard and triggering and heavy this movie is, it's just as joyful. And I think it's even more joyful because of the depth of sorrow that is in this movie, right? You can't have joy without sorrow. You can't have light without dark. You can't, it wouldn't mean as much. The joy wouldn't mean as much if there wasn't the sorrow that came before it. Not saying that you like people should experience these things because like obviously we wouldn't wish these things on our worst enemy, but like it just makes the joy that much more fulfilling for the people experiencing it, I think.
Right. Yeah. It's something that I loved that is definitely joyful. Just maybe not in the way that we would normally think of it, is when Celie spits in old Mister's water when he talks
Oh
about
God, I
Shug.
know. It's so gross.
Yeah, he's like shit talking Shug, and she just and this is also directly after she catches Shug stripping in the living room with her husband.
Uh-huh.
And there's this like moment where you see her looking at Shug like, how dare you? Like, that's disrespectful. And Shug looks like she feels bad.
Yeah.
And that that whole thing feels very complicated because Celie doesn't she doesn't it's not about that like she's in love with Mister, because she's not.
Oh, no, no,
I,
no.
I think it's more about she loves Shug,
Right.
and in her own house, like she is the wife of this house, and like in your own house, like I'm disrespected in that way, but still, even in the immediate aftermath of this incident,
Yeah.
somebody disrespects Shug, and she is like, I will not stand for
Yeah,
this.
she's like, absolutely the fuck not. Also, it's like a buck you to those guys, you know? And it's right after
Absolutely.
she's been told to kind of like stand up for yourself. Like, you got to learn how to fight back. And it's like her first act of rebellion. Like, no one's going to know about it. Oh, God, I hate spit. Um, Despite what I have said in our disobedience episode.
I
Um,
was about to say.
okay, but this was like a loogie. This was like a snort spit. It wasn't like a sexy sexual.
Ew, I'm gonna throw up.
That's what I was saying. That was gross. Anyway,
Yeah.
off the topic.
Um, we also have one of like the most beautiful pieces of sisterhood comes out of when Nettie. Actually, I retract. I retract saying beautiful. I think this is tragic. I think this like made me tear up. This felt really, really horrible, actually. This is when Celie. This is when Pa sells Celie to Mister. Okay.
Oh,
And Nettie says to Celie, even when we have to part, you and me, us have one heart. and they didn't know when they were going to see each other again. Celie had never met this man. She didn't know who Mr. was 1 minute ago. She's a child, and Mr. was there in the first place to try and marry an even younger child. And now Celie, like, in the span of literally a minute, has been told to pack up her life and go with this man who she does not know.
Who her
And
sister calls the devil.
the devil, literally, which also has such huge symbolism in this because of the whole like faith theme throughout this. And I mean, Celie is literally dealing with the devil in this, but God, that, I mean, it's so strong. It, like, me as somebody who loves my own sister so much, is just like, I can't even
Fathom.
imagine or think about. And like the fact that that is not an uncommon story in Black history in the United States of siblings and families being separated because somebody has been sold.
Yeah.
Is, and like generally it's not to another Black man, it's to a white family because they are going to go into slavery for a different family. And it's like the whole thing is atrocious. The white history of like being absolute monsters in this country is an atrocity.
Yep.
And it's not even completely history at this point. Like there's still so much racism running rampant in our country, obviously. Okay, we'll talk about this more next episode, so I'm not going to like completely go on the tangent about this particular piece right now, but everybody read Mouths of Rain. We're gonna cover that next episode. There is a particular piece in there that's talking about racism and interracial working against it and gathering, and how people don't always like work together in the best way possible. Like people love to just talk about it and be theoretical about not being racist, but like in practice it kind of breaks down.
Yeah.
And anyway, this is my call to, I know we have like a lot of white people that listen, and here's my call to you to leave the theory and, you know, take it with you, but leave theory and jump into practice.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? Well, hey, it's Black History Month, and so many people are sharing resources actively on social media where it's at your fingertips of how you can donate to Black Mutual Aid, how you can support Black artists, how you can find Black-owned businesses and support them.
Yep.
How you can, like, there's so many ways that you can do this, right? You can have conversations with people in your real life. You can speak up when something isn't right. You can be uncomfortable in situations where maybe it would be a lot more comfortable to just be quiet and let other people be loud.
Yeah.
But that's not gonna work anymore. Like we're in a time, we've always been in a time where that's not gonna work. But like, right. We have come to a boiling point, you guys. And it's not just in a sense of like with racism, it's obviously there's so many issues going on, but like the people who are in the most risk are the people who cross over minority groups.
Yeah.
So we have people in our communities who are Black, who are queer, who are women, who are like all of these minority groups who are a combination who are, and you have to be part of the community. If you want the community to stand up for you, you have to go and use your voice and give resources when you can. Like, that's what being in community is. And so this is my call to action for you. If you're listening to this, please. And with that, I think that we should talk about what happens to Sophia in this movie.
Yeah, I know we touched on it a little bit in the first episode. But I think there's something to say about how more vocal and proud and forceful women tend to get the brunt of, I don't even know what to call it, the brunt of abuse in certain societies. And I think that's what happened to Sophia. I mean, like she said, she was used to fighting. And somebody who fights back is going to be somebody that you want to control even more. And you're going to have to take more extreme methods to control if that's what your end goal is, like it was for white society at this time. And yeah, Sophia's story is just all of these women's stories. You can't even put one above the other of what they've gone through, because it's like they're all on par with each other. They're just different.
Yeah. To give like an overview of what happens, Sophia, well, a multitude of things have happened to Sophia. Okay, so she's clearly come from a situation where, as she says in her song Hell No, which, by the way, extremely powerful song.
Yeah.
That is sung not once but twice. The first time by Sophia and the second time by Celie, which gives me chills just thinking about that. Like, Celie is able to co-opt the strength that Sophia gives her later on in the movie. But focusing on Sophia right now, she comes from a background where she's had to fight against her male family members. And a lyric in the song is that, like, no girl child is safe in a home full of men. And she then comes and like builds a home for herself, where then she gets beat by Harpo, her husband, because Celie gave advice to Harpo when he was trying to figure out how to get Sophia to mind him.
Mm-hmm.
And so Sophia gathers her strength and picks up and leaves the man that she loves, because she will not stand for being beat. Okay. So then she ends up with a new man, has children with him, and she is out on the town with Celie. They're getting ice cream. It's Sophia and her new husband's treat. I don't know if it's husband, actually. It might just be like a partner. I don't think that they maybe ever got married. I can't quite remember.
Yeah,
but regardless, that's not super important. They're out in the town, and white people are around here. Okay. And the mayor's wife, this Sophia, the husband, the kids, and Celie are the only Black people in sight. That's really important here. And the mayor's wife pulls up, and very well off, clearly, and she sees Sophia, and she asks Sophia, like, hey, will you come be my maid? And Sophia is like, no, I'm good, thanks. And the mayor's wife does not let it go, and thinks that Sophia is like being difficult and talking back to her, and that Sophia should have to come be her maid. And
like she's offering her this great opportunity.
Right. And at this point, the mayor gets out and comes and gets in Sophia's face and like kind of threatens her, and she ends up hitting him. And then she, as the second that she does, she screams to her husband, "Get my kids out of here, get my kids out of here," because she already knows what's going to happen. And it's like she is blood in the water, and this whole town is full of sharks because all of the white people descend on her and start gang beating her.
Yeah.
And she is just screaming to get her children out. And all that her husband and Celie don't even get out and try and defend her because they know that they can't.
You can't.
And
Yeah.
all they can do is cover her kids' eyes and get them away. And Sophia is horrifically beat, injured, and arrested. And they put her in prison for 6 years.
All
And
for saying like no, right? And I just want to talk about really quick, and then I'll let you continue. Just she's even like harkens back to her song, her "Hell No" song, because she says "Hell no" to the mayor's wife. That's what makes the mayor get out of the car.
yeah, and she is broken physically, emotionally, spiritually. The Sophia that we know is gone.
Yeah.
She is not speaking except for to cry and to beg Celie not to leave her there when Celie comes and visits her once a week. And she's not eating. She's not like, she's a shell. There's no Sophia left in there. And even 6 years later, when she finally gets out, there's reunion with her family, and everyone is so happy to finally like get to hug her. And it lasts mere seconds before the mayor's wife is like, enough of that, come on, like I'm offering her this great deal to get back on her feet and come work for me. And like the mayor's wife has this insane savior complex, and Sophia has to go get in the car and sit next to this woman who completely ruined her life and go with her. And like how it should be is that she gets out of prison and she's free to do what she wants, but that's not how it is for her. That's not her reality.
No.
And she shouldn't have been in prison in the first place. None of this should have happened to her in the first place. And it was because a white woman who had some insane delusion that she was doing good for her ruined her life.
Yeah.
And this is a really hard truth for a lot of white women to hear, but that is not uncommon. And white women have consistently been like a great enemy of Black women and men. White women have a history of falsely accusing Black men of rape and getting them killed, of being nasty to Black women in the workplace, of just like countless things, really.
Wow.
Lots of acts of racism, and that's not in the past either. I'm not going to go on another rant, but there are a lot of white women still actively today that do a lot of damage for Black people. And I think that the Black community rightly feels cautious when approaching white women. And many of us, I think, enter places with a sense of entitlement. And there's a Karen stereotype for a reason. And that's definitely worth self-examination. and thought. And that's like a daily active thing that I think white women should be doing. It's not like a once over, like, have I done anything that might be considered
Yeah.
harmful, racist? Should I change any behavior? Yes, no, good, all right, never think about it again. Like, that's not how this goes. It's like a constant thing.
Self-evaluation. Yeah.
Yeah, because also Black women are living in a constant state of needing to be aware and worrying about what's going to happen to them. And I think that, like, as white women, we should be aware of that and
That's
just like
exactly what I was
be
gonna say.
better.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was going to say is in line with the constant, like white women need to be constantly aware of the space that they take up and the spaces that they enter into, because Black women, Hispanic women, any type of minority group of people, when they walk into a room, they're very aware of whether they're the only Black or Hispanic or Asian person in the room, right? Whereas when we as white women walk into a room, we don't even think about that, right?
Mhm.
So it's just being more aware of the awareness of your fellow woman, right? Like
Yeah.
if you know that if you're the only Black woman to walk into a space, that you are potentially more vulnerable because everyone there doesn't just see you as a woman, they see you as a Black woman, right? But us as white women, we don't even think about that. Actually, this makes me think of A Time to Kill, which is a John Grisham book that was made into a movie. And it has Samuel L. Jackson, Matthew McConaughey, Kiefer Sutherland, Sandra Bullock. They're all in it. And it's about this Black man in the South whose daughter is raped. And he then goes and kills the two white rapists and is put on trial. And his lawyer, that's Samuel L. Jackson's character, and his lawyer is Matthew McConaughey. And there's this incredible scene at the end where Matthew McConaughey has to give his closing argument. I promise this all ties in. Um, has to give his closing argument, and he meets with Samuel L. Jackson in the jail, and he's like, Samuel L. Jackson tells him like, when you look at me, you don't see a man, you see a Black man. And the reason I hired you is because I need you to give a closing statement that would convince you to let me go free.
Mm.
And I think that's like such a good encapsulation of like what white privilege is we have the privilege of not being aware of our skin color on the daily. And
Yeah.
I think as white women, we need to be aware of our skin color and what privilege that holds, because that's the only way we can confront it and then also help our our other women not have to feel so afraid all the time.
Yeah. Also, people in minority groups spend their entire lives like being the only one in the room. And like me personally, speaking from my own experience as a white person, I was never the only white person in a room until I was like 22.
Yeah.
Um, just like a drastic difference in experience. And also, any time that I have been the only white person in a room, I have never had one single reason to feel even remotely unsafe.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if
Just
I'm in a room full of men and I'm the only one,
then it's a
that's
different story.
different. But yeah, no, I very rarely feel unsafe if there's other women in the room with me that are either white, Black, brown, it doesn't matter. But that's not the same for my minority sisters when they walk into a room and there's a bunch of white women, they will feel unsafe.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I hope we can work on that collectively.
Yes. Yep. Okay.
So, Sophia, we talked about this last episode, but she breaks out of her shell at the dinner when the sisterhood stands up to the men, and specifically when Celie calls Mr. like exactly what it is, like a pile of dog shit in a bag or something like that. It's something along those lines. It's something so like insane that it made Sophia just bust up laughing. Um, but you know what I also want to talk about is that Squeak hit Sophia at some point in this film.
Oh yeah.
Slapped her in the face, and it was, I think it was after Sophia came out of jail.
No, it was at the
Was it?
it was at when Shug Avery does her thing at the bar
Yeah,
because
that was
Sophia
pre-jail.
comes
Yeah, you're right. That's pre-jail.
yeah,
Okay.
Sophia comes to talk to Harpo and Squeak is like, he's mine now. And that whole conflict.
Yeah, and that's also just another example of like women getting a little like out of hand when somebody, another woman, is too strong and intimidating and she feels like she's got to take her down a peg.
Yeah.
And this is before Squeak is like initiated into the sisterhood, I guess, and really understands like what it's about to be in community with
Yeah.
women.
Yeah.
And her tune changes, right?
Mhm.
Once she's a part of this, and Sophia like never holds it against her. Like she fights back. She's not just gonna let her hit her. But after the fight, it's like, okay, we're done with that, right? Like, can we
It's
move
almost
on?
like how men handle their conflict. Like, let's fight and then we're fine.
Yeah.
But what I think
Um,
is, oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say what I think is so beautiful about Sophia coming out of her um like trance like state is I think it was Celie's powerfulness that gave Sophia the power to come back to herself, which is
Mhm.
kind of the reversal of story because it was Sophia's power that gave Celie the bravery to come into herself, right? And then we see Celie give that back to Sophia.
Yes.
Yeah.
And speaking of Celie coming into herself and her power, we have to talk about I'm Here.
Yeah.
Um, I sobbed uncontrollably during this song. It was, I think, the highlight of this entire film. Um, it's, and my girlfriend told me before I watched it, she was like, yeah, Celie's gonna sing a song and you'll know when you see it. Like it's like very powerful. And afterwards I have to show you Cynthia Erivo singing it
Oh
because it was the
my
first
God.
time that I had seen Cynthia Erivo ever before. Um and I was like, oh, I think I know what you're talking about because I had seen clips of Cynthia talking about this song and how like it's the most difficult song she's ever sang.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because it's so emotional. Like it holds so much inside of it. And what's happening is that Celie has had this complete transformation, and it is not only a declaration of like, I'm here despite everything that has happened to me, but it's also a proclamation of I'm beautiful and I have gratitude and I share my heart with people, and I can be vulnerable, and I have gifts that have been given to me, and um
It's like
it
freedom. It's
yes, yes,
finally free.
yes, she has reached like it's like no matter what everybody's trying to take pieces of herself away from her, it's a reclamation of all of these pieces that have been torn away from her, and she's reclaimed all of them, and she's putting them back together, and she's saying, I am here, right here, like I can touch right here in my chest. This is me, my soul is here. And watching her sing this, and I mean, it was beautifully performed. Like the emotion of it, there wasn't like anything going on. It was only her.
Yeah.
I've re-listened to it like a gajillion times. It's truly the highlight of the film. There's like nothing. It maybe is like the best scene ever. I mean, tell me your thoughts about it.
Oh, it's gorgeous. And it's almost to me bookended the first song that we talked about, where right after she sees her daughter and she's singing this song. What is that song called? Do you know?
She Be Mine.
Yeah, She Be Mine. She's singing and there's all these people around her and she's singing about someone else and how, and then this song at the end, there's no one around her. She's singing completely by herself and about herself. And yeah, to me, like I said, it completely encapsulates freedom and like triumph of the spirit, right? Like you can't break me. Everything I've been through has made me who I am today, and I love who I am today because I am so strong. And yeah, it's such a beautiful, again, like I said, I rewatched the ending, starting with right before that song. I watched the pant song and then it goes into this song. And yeah, it's just you have to give props to Fantasia Barrino. Like she's such an incredible vocalist, such an incredible actress. And I think she really understood this role so well.
Absolutely, she did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of the actors of this film and understanding the roles and what was going on, I have to bring up I want to know what was going on in their heads when they were approached about this film, because we know what happened the first time that it was made.
Mm-hmm.
And we know, like Whoopi Goldberg said, that with all of the protesting that happened, it made it so much more difficult for Black stories to be told in Hollywood. And like all of these Black actors that were in the film were unemployed for years after, like nobody would touch them. And because there was just so much controversy surrounding the film. And everyone was scared to tell Black stories for fear of their name being wrapped up in this controversy. And I just want to know, when they were approached with this story, like clearly they felt the importance of it. They wanted to do right by it. They knew what it meant to be in a story like this. And I'm sure that they like had some fear wrapped up in it too, because while we are living in a different cultural moment than the 80s, you can't predict how people will respond to things. And yeah, I wonder about that. And there's also, just the thing about like the first time it came out, a lot of the Black audience was a little unsettled about it because there was so much pressure on the film because
Yeah.
they wanted it to accurately reflect Black life and Black stories. And the thing about that is that Black people are not a monolith. You just can't envelop like all of Black life in one story. You just can't. And so you don't know like what the response will be from any direction. I don't know. I wish I could hear their perspectives. I haven't heard or seen any articles or interviews about like if there was fear surrounding taking these parts.
Yeah. I haven't read anything either, so I can't comment. Um, yeah, do we have anything else?
You know,
I like how we said this was going to be shorter than our first episode and longer.
um, I think that we've just about covered this film, and I want to thank everyone for listening. And I have another Black artist shout out
Yay.
to do. And this week I have Sophie, who is somebody in our LA artist community. And Sophie is a Ghanaian songwriter, singer, producer. I love her music. I actually went to one of her like album release parties a year or two ago, and she gathered the most incredible collection of musicians. Like there was a flautist there that was absolutely like the most incredible thing I've ever heard, and he is featured on I think it's Her on Her's album.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, but Annalie List played. She was on American Idol. There was like this artist that flew in from Germany and sang in German. There were a couple of African artists that came. Like it was everything about it. It was so incredibly curated. But Sophie herself does fusion music that's got like African percussion, and she is an R&B artist. She grew up both in the UK and in Ghana and lives in LA now. And everybody go give her a listen. She just released a new mixtape, and her Instagram is Lioness Sophie. I'm going to put it in our episode description. So, yeah.
Okay, everyone, we're going to be reading Mouths of Rain and covering it next week. It is an anthology, so we'll be pulling some of our favorite pieces out. We'll be talking about the work overall. I can't wait to get into it. There's so many good pieces, and I'm going to be reading like a mad woman because I still have like 200 pages left. But I have made a huge dent.
It is long, but very, very nutrient dense,
Yes.
as I would put it. Yeah.
Yes, it's very good.
Mhm.
Okay, everyone, thank you for coming on this ride. I think we talked about this movie longer than the actual movie is, but go watch it. Read the book. Read Alice Walker's Pulitzer Prize winning book, The Color Purple. And we can't wait to talk to you guys next week.
We love you.
Love you guys. Bye.